It's Thursday, February 14th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On Barnstable Today, it's all about taxes, short-term rentals, and property tax bills. As Benjamin Franklin once said, but in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. First up, municipal news and notes. File this under, did you know? Barnstable has a meteorite named after it. That's right, our own DPW employee, Stephen Amara, found the crusty rock in a blueberry bush back in August of 2018. It is the only second-named meteorite documented in Massachusetts. You can search for Barnstable in the Meteoritical Bulletin database online for more information on the properties and location of where it was found. Well done, Steve. Finance Director Mark Milne joins us in studio to update us on the new short-term rental tax. Nobody likes to talk about the word, but we're going to talk about it today. Taxes, a new one on short-term rentals. With me today, Director of Finance, Mark Milne. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Something new from the Department of Revenue. It was passed this past December. And towns are starting to ramp up and understand what this new short-term rental tax is. So we're going to go through a few of the frequently asked questions and maybe ease some people's fears of what they need to do. And hopefully, you know, this revenue will come back to Barnstable in a positive way.
Sure.
So let's start with the first. What is the short-term rental tax?
Sure. So to level the playing field with for hotels, motels, and other lodging establishments, the state passed the tax, a short-term rental tax, which applies to all units of housing that are being used on a short-term rental basis. Though, in essence, it only applies to those being rented out for more than 15 days in a calendar year. So if somebody's using their house and renting it out for 14 days or less in a calendar year, it won't apply to them. However, if you're exceeding that number of days, you're going to have to pay the state excise rooms tax, the local excise rooms tax, and a new Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund excise tax. And that applies across the state. This is general legislation. It's for every community except for the Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. Of course, that only applies to communities on Cape Cod and the islands.
Okay. And the towns had some autonomy, I guess you would say, in setting some of these rates?
Yes, the local rooms excise tax can be set anywhere from 0 to 6%. That is done through legislative action at the local level. Barnstable years ago had set their rate at 6%. There are other communities on Cape Cod that are set at 6% as well, but some are at 4%. So it's a range of 4 to 6% on Cape Cod.
Okay. And when we look at some of these rates, you know, there's these multiple taxes. These are all aggregate, so it gets paid all at once. You're not paying these, you know, piecemeal. That's one tax together.
Right. Yeah. For within the town of Barnstable, anyways, it's going to be when you add it all up, it's 14.45%. Okay. All three, the state, local, and the Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund, all totals 14.45%, and that's all going to have to be collected from the individuals renting the unit and the owners or operators or their agents, if they use an agent to manage that rental property for them, will be responsible for collecting that from the renter and submitting it on a monthly basis to the Department of Revenue. It doesn't come to the town, it goes to the Department of Revenue. Just like the hotels and motels now collect their the state and local excise tax, and they send that to the Department of Revenue.
Right. So we'll back up just a little bit, and you know, we were talking before the show. We don't really have any idea of how many of these rentals are out there because there's no data on that at this point in time. So how is the Department of Revenue going to track this? Is there some type of registry or a registration process?
Yes, Department of Revenue is in the process of establishing a registry. They anticipate having it up and running in March, so very soon. And they'll be letting us know more information about the registry. Every homeowner who conducts this type of activity in their home, whether it's they meet that 14-day threshold or not, will have to register.
Okay.
So more information is coming from the Department of Revenue. We will share that with the community once it's up and running. They do have a frequently asked questions area on their website for homeowners that they can go to and reference and keep an eye on how things are progressing at the state level.
Right. And, you know, again, we don't like to talk about taxes, but, you know, it takes money to make a town run. There's lots of community services out there that have to be funded. From your perspective as a finance director, you know, how do these new types of taxes, because they're different than what we've had, it's an amendment to a regular lodging tax, how will this maybe help the town manage certain services as we go forward?
Well, you know, already, as you probably know, we put a third of our local rooms excise tax that we collect into a special revenue fund that's used for comprehensive water management in private ways. And we established that fund specifically to help us address our comprehensive water management plan that's subject to you know, the 208 plan under the Environmental Protection Act. And so this allows us to dedicate more resources now for that particular purpose to address that plan. In addition to what we're doing with that special revenue fund, this new 2.75% Cape Cod and Islands Water Protection Fund will provide an additional revenue source as well, again, to help address that plan, which is probably the largest capital program we're ever going to see. So it's you know, a real useful tool for us to specifically address this large capital plan.
Right, and it actually shares the load a little bit from resident as well as our visitors, is that the visitors will pay some towards this infrastructure that they're using.
Yes, yes, it's a you know, it's going to take resources from multiple levels. We're trying to obtain federal funds to address the issue, state funds, and the local contribution will be you know, provided from residents as well as visitors now through the use of these taxes. Right.
So with the new, you said March, how are people going to kind of get notified by stuff like this? You know, either registration, or is there going to be communication from the town back out to some of these once you know who they are?
Yes, well, it's going to be, individuals also have to be responsible for making sure that they're complying with all regulations if they're conducting this type of activity. It's not necessarily the town's responsibility, but we're going to do whatever we can to communicate this out to the community through programs like this, our website. However, we don't know who these people are, so we can't directly contact them. So there is some responsibility on the homeowners as well. But many of the people who conduct this type of activity on their property work with a realtor. And the Cape and Islands Realtors Association is well aware of this new legislation. They have very helpful information for owners of properties who conduct this type of activity on their website. They can contact the Cape and Islands Association of Realtors for more information on that as well. So there's a number of ways the information is getting out to the community, whether it's that organization or the town of Barnstable or the Department of Revenue.
Right. And you said something earlier, too, that the town council has just passed, funded a study for this particular issue as well.
Well, they provided some money for a consultant to come in and help us look at our zoning and any regulations that we may want to adopt to regulate short-term rentals in the town of Barnstable. As this is new, so we're going to have to take a look at that. You know, we have this type of activity taking place in a lot of different currently residentially zoned areas in town, and whether or not we want to continue to allow that type of activity to happen in those areas. We need to be thoughtful about that process and reach out to stakeholders and engage them, and that's what this money is going to be used for, is to go out and do some community engagement, to talk about, to look at our zoning and to look at regulations perhaps that we can implement to help regulate this type and enforce this type of activity.
Right. And any last kind of comments that you want to make to the folks out there that do have these short-term rentals? I know that the town's website does have a frequently asked questions document up there now, so they can get that information. But anything else that you want them to be aware of that we can get the word out to them?
Yeah, well, just pay attention to the town's website, the Department of Revenue's website. Go to speak to the Cape and Islands Association for Realtors if you have any questions. People using online platforms. I don't know how that is going to, how the tax is going to be collected, if at all, through the online platform. They may not. The online platform service provider may not provide that type of service. It may be the homeowner's responsibility. So just educate yourself. Feel free to call. My contact information is on the website under the frequently asked questions, as well as the Cape and Islands Association of Realtors. So just stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more information coming forward, and we're going to be sharing that with the community as we receive guidance from the Department of Revenue, which is still evolving.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Do you have trouble understanding your tax bill? Not sure what those acronyms stand for or where your exemption is listed? Use this handy video to make reading your tax bill easier. It's tax season, so tell me when tax bills went out.
For the actual bills, the bills went out on December 31st, and the next two dates for the third quarter is February 1st, and then the fourth quarter would do May 1st. Those are the actual bills.
Okay, and let me ask you, how long do people have to pay their tax bills? What's the net due, I guess, is
30 days.
30 days. So just say the payments are due within 30 days.
Correct.
Okay. What's the importance of paying your tax bill on time?
To avoid 14% interest on the unpaid balance.
Okay. And when, how do people pay their bill?
People can pay by check. People pay online through our online service. And people use their own online banking checks.
And we also
take cash
at the counter if they come to the counter.
Tell people what to do if they haven't received their tax bill.
If they have not received their tax bill, to contact us. They can either come into the counter, call us, and then we can check to see if the bill was issued and where it was mailed to, and then if they have to do any change of the mailing address, we can direct them to the assessor's department to do the changes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how does the assessor's department work with the tax collection department? What's that connection?
Any information that goes on the tax bill actually originates from the assessor's office, as far as they basically go through the rate setting for taxes, for the tax rate, and the assessors do the assessment value for land, building, and so forth. So 99.9% of the information on your tax bill generates from the assessing office. They also are responsible for address updates. We cannot do any address updates.
So if they have questions on their tax bill, the first stop may be the assessor's department?
Not
necessarily.
No.
Yeah,
No, they should always come here
Yeah.
first, because we can basically tell by looking up their bill
Correct.
where we need to have them go. If they're questioning about an abatement exemption, we would refer them to the assessing office.
Great.
Basically, other than that, tax rates, we can figure out for them between the tax
Yeah.
rates and their assessments whether their bill is correct.
If they have a past due balances, we can take a
Yeah.
look as well, and we can even look see if they apply for an exemption, if it has been applied or not, and if it's not, then we can send them to the assessing department. Yeah.
Okay. What are your hours here?
Our hours are 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday.
Excellent. Anything else you want residents to know as you're talking to them before we do the bill stuff?
We are here for help. We try to help. We've been a little bit short-staffed, and then I know that creates a backup on posting payments. I know some residents are not happy. We're trying to post, a lot of payments as fast as we can. But if it,
Also bring up about people who use their own online banking. Everybody thinks it's electronic. It is not electronic. It is an actual check that is issued to our office. And when that check is mailed to our office, as many times as we put through the bulletins and so forth, that those checks need to be addressed to our Hyannis office, not our lockbox office in Reading, because they cannot be processed electronically. Those bills each one needs to be researched, and those checks, each one needs to be researched and matched to a bill for that amount of money. People are very quick to issue the checks. However, sometimes we have information that is not traceable to anything that we have in the tax office, and they are very time consuming. Different banks are working on methods to try and help us process these faster, but they are very time consuming. We use a lot of paper. Sometimes a lot of frustration when it's an off-Cape address on their check itself, so you can't even think, okay, we can look up that street. The research that we have to do for billing is astronomical.
to make sure we apply the payments to the correct
Correctly.
accounts, and then we don't have to do a reversal or apply to somebody else's account. But yeah,
Can they put something in the memo that would help you?
A parcel ID for real estate is, that
Yes.
parcel ID number basically will never change, where bill numbers change every year. So we try and stress to put the parcel ID number, which is on their tax bill under their property description, on that check, because that helps us more than them writing a number, and you look up that
Yep.
bill number, research that, and it can go back 5 years.
What's at this top left-hand corner?
so in the property description, it will have the address. In the top, it will have our hours, their phone number, who to make the checks payable to, and the address to mail it to.
Okay.
If they are sending the coupon with the check, they can send it to our Reading address. Otherwise, they have to send it to our P.O. Box 40 in Hyannis so we can process the checks. Also, in the property description, it will have all the description of the property, address of the property, if it is a booking page, the land area, and the deed date.
Okay.
It will have all that information in there.
And then this is where your parcel ID is as well?
Correct. Yep. And also, if they always have a question, sometimes this bill doesn't have it, but it will show a parcel ID sometimes on August and November bills are a little bit different, and then it will show in this box as well. The actual, that's where they're going to find the parcel ID.
Okay. All right, and then as we just come down here, there's really the same information, gives what the
Correct.
property description is and who the owners of the property are?
Yep. And then again, the parcel ID.
Okay. Excellent.
Correct.
Then as we look, this is the confusing part, I think, to a lot of our residents, is
Correct.
there's a lot of acronyms here
Yes.
on the tax bill. So if you could go down some of these
Sure.
acronyms, and you don't have to show it to the camera,
So-
just come down the line. So what is COMCOM?
COMCOM, so the town of Barnstable has 5 villages. COMCOM, it is for the village that located in Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills. COM at the end, it would if it was a commercial property. When you look, COM RES is residential, so that's a residence property. If it was a property located in Hyannis, it would have HY COM for commercial or HY RES for residential. And it goes for Barnstable, Cotuit, and then as I said, Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills is under one village. Then it goes to the CPA. It's Community Preservation Act. It's for the land, the preservation areas around the town of Barnstable, and that would charge 3% of the town taxes. And the tax COM, it is a town tax for a commercial property, or tax res, which it is the tax for the residential. On the actual bill, the bills that just sent out, we do have the land value, the building value, and exempt value. The exempt value showing is always the residential exemption. So if a lot of customers don't know, taxpayers don't know where to look for if they did or did not receive the residential exemption, and that's where they have to look. If it's exempted value, it has a dollar amount, they got granted the residential exemption. That only shows on the actual bills. The preliminary bills for August and November, we don't have. It's still based on the prior year's land value, assessed value, so that's why it does not show on the preliminary bills.
Okay, and then this box over here has basically more information of dollars here. So go down those columns of numbers there for me.
So it will show the bill number, but bill numbers change for every year. So that's why we always ask people when they're paying to list the parcel ID. They will have the total of the real estate taxes. Special assessments, that it will show if they had a penalty for some reason they didn't fill it out, some paperwork with the assessing department. Some customers ask, you know what I mean, taxpayer, where does it show if I have the road betterment, how much I'm paying? It actually is going to go back to this box, which says special assessments. That's where it will show about the road betterment. It will show sewer betterment, or if they didn't pay their sewer bills, we do link to the real estate taxes, and that's where they will get all the information. And that it will show under the preliminary taxes how much it was issued, and then the credits, which how much they pay. This right here, the exemptions and abatements, that will be the veterans exemption, blind exemption, any other types of exemptions other than the residential exemption, it would show right here on this box. And then we also list if the customer has a past due, the interest amount, the fees that was attached, and then the third and fourth quarter amounts with the due dates. Going down a little bit, this is the codes for all the 5 village and the tax rates for the village. So it will have for the residential, personal property tax, commercial, and then, so this is for the town, and then the district tax rates per 1,000. It will show underneath.
Okay, and those districts are really the fire districts.
Correct, which is the 5 villages that the town of Barnes has. And then this year, it was also, we printed a note, if you have a prior balance, contact tax collector's office. Mass General Law has changed, so we have to list this information. So a lot of customers are getting in concern. A lot of don't have, but we have to, on the actual bill, print this note if they have any past due balance to contact a tax collector. Okay?
Excellent. And then we hit the actual coupon piece
Correct.
of this, right? So let's talk a little bit about what to do with that coupon.
Okay, so you're always going to look and fill the paperwork. Some people like look, oh, I only have the 4th quarter. So usually the first one to send it to us is on the bottom of the page. So the example, this one is the 3rd quarter. So you can just detach. If you want to come in, you can come in person to pay, or you can mail us a check, or you can go online to pay. And it pretty much has the same information of the top box, how much it is due, the due date, if it was any past due, the interest. It shows the due date and the amount that is due.
Okay. There's 2 blank lines there that say, what are those blank lines for?
It is if people wanted to donate it towards the scholarship or the elderly. But this is if people would like to donate. It's not, it's voluntary. You don't, They don't have to if they don't.
What are those scholarships? We have rec scholarships.
Yes, correct. And then the elderly, if you need, if the elderly needs a help, whatever, they can call the treasury department, and they can go over with the process.
So if you donate to that fund,
Correct.
and there's elders in our community that need help
Correct.
paying their taxes, you can help them.
They contact the treasury department, they have to follow the procedure, and they might be able to get help with that fund.
Okay. Anything else on this bill that you want residents to be aware of?
We wanted to be aware of the due dates especially. Because the due dates are, we bill in a fiscal year, which is a lot of confusion as well. So our fiscal years run from July 1st to June 30th of the following year, which has the 1st quarter due on August 1st, the second quarter due November 1st, the third quarter February 1st, and the last quarter May 1st. Those are usually the due dates, other than if the due date follows on the weekends, we're not open on the weekends, and then goes to the next business day. So that's very important. And to avoid the 14% interest charge, the bill must be paid by the due date.
Excellent.
Here is a look at things to do, places to go, and people to meet. Need a timeout and relaxing activity? Join the Cotuit Library staff for coloring in a cuppa, Friday, February 16th from 10 to 12. Enjoy a relaxing hour of coloring and Zentangle for adults. They'll provide the colored pencils, pens, and pictures to color. You just need to bring yourself and your creativity. Hot chocolate and tea available for any and all, so come on down and relax with Cotuit Library. This program is free, but please register at cotuitlibrary.org/events. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Email us or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.